Welcome back to topic 36 for Algebra 1, adding polynomials. In part 1, we're going to first define a polynomial and then learn to classify them by term and the degree. So first, what is a polynomial? A polynomial is an expression with one or more terms. Now let's first define what is a term. You've probably heard of things such as, oh, we need to combine like terms. Terms is the product of numbers and variables. So specifically, polynomials can be identified by how many terms that they have. Polynomials with one term are called a monomial. An example of a monomial could be something like 4x, or maybe something like 7, or even something like 13x to the 5th y. Each of these three examples are an example of a monomial. There is one term there. Something with two terms is called a binomial. An example of a binomial could be something like 2x plus 1, or 5x to the 4th y to the 3rd plus 3. Here we can physically count two terms. And oftentimes, binomials or greater, polynomials with two or more terms, they're separated by either an addition sign or a subtraction sign. So that way we can identify the different terms. 1, 2, 1, 2. Polynomials with three terms are called trinomials. An example of a trinomial could be something like 2x squared plus 5x minus 6. Again, here we have three terms. 1, 2, 3. Now anything that is greater than three terms, so 4 or more terms, is just referred to as a polynomial. An example of a polynomial is 4x squared y squared plus 5x minus 2y plus 6. Here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, four-term polynomial. Now polynomials can also be classified by their degree. The degree of a polynomial is the greatest degree of any term of the polynomial. So we're looking for the highest power. Now sometimes we might have a degree of 0. That's called a constant. An example of a constant could be something like 7. Now, I know what some of you may be thinking, but I don't see an exponent there. So what really is happening here is this is x to the 0th power times 7. Now, what's something to the 0th power? It's 1. 7 times 1 gives us 7. So because we have an exponent of 0 here, we just ignore that variable altogether because it would simplify to just be that constant, just be that number. The next one is called linear, and this is what we've been exploring a lot in Algebra 1. This has a degree of 1. An example of a linear polynomial would be 4x, or 4x to the first power. Here, usually whenever we see 1 as an exponent, we usually ignore it and we leave it out. However, if it's helpful for you, feel free to write it in. A quadratic is a degree of 2. An example of a quadratic could be 3x squared plus 2x plus 1. Next up is called cubic. Cubic is a degree of 3. An example of a cubic polynomial would be negative 5x squared y. However, I'm a little confused here because I don't see a 3 as an exponent. I see a 2, but not a 3. Well, this y has a degree of 1. Remember, whenever we don't see an exponent, there's automatically a 1 to get there. If we look at our exponents, we have 2 and 1. If we add them, we get a degree of 3. So this is an important thing to note. For a monomial, the degree is the sum of the exponents. Now, anything that has higher than a third degree, 4 or more, we use whatever that number is and say it's that degree, such as the 4th degree, 5th degree, 6th degree, etc., etc. An example here could be 4x squared y squared plus 5x minus 2y plus 6. Now the degree of this polynomial is 4 because if we look at this first term here, we have an exponent of 2 and 2. If we add these exponents, that means the highest power of this entire polynomial would be a degree of 4. Moving on to looking at what a coefficient is. Now you've probably heard this term thrown around a lot or even introduced in the beginning of Algebra 1. Coefficient is the number that multiplies a variable or variables. In the example here of 37x squared y to the 4th, our coefficient is 37. Now, oftentimes, after we simplify polynomials, or even just generally when we're writing them, we write them in what's called standard form. It's custom to write polynomials starting with the highest exponent first. So in the example below, we would write this as x squared plus 2x minus 1. Now this 2x has a power of 1. So it's going in decreasing order. We wouldn't write this with all of our powers kind of jumbled around to be 2x minus 1 plus x squared. That is not considered written in standard form. And that is part 1 for topic 36 for Algebra 1, adding polynomials. Thank you for watching.